Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Alright, today's activity is these guys need to be cleaned. No thought, I don't have any food for you right now. This cage needs to be cleaned, and at the same time I want to outfit them with the dreaded heat rock. I'm not doing any sort of promotion for ZooMed. I think it's a terrible company overall. Their light bulbs are absolutely just terrible. They burn out quite rapidly. However, they're the only people that make heat rocks, and you know, again, I'll tell you, heat rocks are perfectly okay to keep your snakes with, unless you're keeping dumb snakes like ball pythons who don't know any better to get off the heat. I've been using heat rocks for 35, 37 years, a long time, never had a snake with a problem. So, end of story with heat rocks burning my snake. Regardless, this pair of squammies will need to come out so I can refurb their cage. Are you hungry this week? You didn't eat last week. I see a little face peering out, thinking that it's feeding time. Unfortunately, I am going to not feed today. And actually, I have in the box here a piece of cardboard to act as a divider, just so the rather cantankerous female does not bite the male. It's just easier to put them in the same bin together. So right away I can see the snake says, "Hey, this is not what happens when food comes." So first thing we'll do is we'll take out the very lovely young male here, who's actually the father of some of the babies that's over there in the bin, and hopefully he will behave and get down into the bin here and not poke his head up. Otherwise I might have to rethink this and use separate bins. Just stay there, dude. Secondly, we'll get the big girl out and try not to get bit. She's a large girl and has a very long reach, and really doesn't like to be manipulated, as you can see. The whole idea is to get her in here, get the lid on. Oh, relax, girlie. Oh, now he took a swing at me too. Okay, so we're gonna set these guys out of the way so they're not sent into hyperspace. So we'll set that up there and make sure that they're not being set on a very hot spot on the cage, like over a heat panel, so they're safe. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pull this cage down and just leave the light there. I used to have locks on every cage, but since it's only Lori and I know as a fact Lori is not prone to go into cages that she's not supposed to, I've not locked the cages in quite some time, since she and I are the only two people that comes into the rooms because it's here in the house, and trespassers usually are shot well before they would make it to the snake room, so therefore I don't have to keep them locked up. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the furniture, and I will remove all the substrate and crap, literally, from the cage. Then I will just drill a hole in the back and put in the heat rock. Alright, I got the enclosure cleaned out, so now I am going to drill a hole here for the heat rock to go in through. That's the problem you have with keyless trucks. They don't necessarily hold things as well as you think they would. This cage is unoccupied. However, one of the 2016 Squam babies that are in bins across the way are going to go in there. So I will just outfit this cage at the same time. Okay, so now the heavy construction is more or less done. You know, we as a society, we overuse plastic. It's ridiculous the amount of packaging that we use on items that don't really need it. What's the harm just leaving it like this in the box? You know, now that plastic is going in some landfill to foul the planet. You know, these are supposedly environmentally conscious companies. Well, you should write them and tell them that they need to rethink their packaging to make it more bio-friendly. So, you know, also another thing that has to be sort of done here is in order to get it into a cage, to keep the cage secure, you know, you don't want to poke a hole in this. You don't want to route it in places where the snake could easily get out. So the way I'm doing it is the most secure way, and you know, that's putting it through a small borehole in the wall of the cage. And then I put a replacement plug back on it. That's the best way to do it. You know, when you're dealing with venomous, especially venomous snakes that can have very tiny babies that can easily get out of the cage, I like to do things in a way to prevent those little tiny blighters from escaping, and using a tiny borehole like I made in the back of the cage, and then just replacing the plug with one that you buy in the store. These are very convenient. These actually come with the heat panels that I get from Pro Products, but you can buy them in the store. You can just slide the wire in there, and then you close that until it locks, and now the plug is permanently and well, not permanently, but correctly applied, and you just plug it in and you're good to go. So now it's time to take the environmentally unfriendly packaging off of this zoo bed heat rock. and essentially do the same thing that I did with the other one. Alright, so I've got them in the cages, have them situated the way I sort of want them, and now I will just go ahead and put some substrate in. There's some substrate that's sort of stuck down there in the door frame. I'm going to keep that out. I will clean the glass after I get the substrate in because I've let this fall over twice and made a mess on the floor, so I want to get the substrate in and all done. Now, since these guys are going back in their cage, I didn't want to clean and sterilize it because there really isn't any reason. There is some crap stuck on the wall, but at least, you know, the snakes don't like me really cleaning their houses anyway. So, if the same snake's going back in there, and there's no health issues, I don't clean and sterilize the cage. This cage was, you know, thoroughly clean and wiped down and sprayed with various disinfectants, so it's all good to go. Now, I put the base of substrate fairly heavy. This is to further insulate the animal from touching the heat rock. We'll put the girl's hut back on top of that in about the same location. And we'll, of course, build up the sides here a little bit so there's a heater. We'll put a new water dish in a little while. We'll put the tree branch back in place. So there is something to climb up on, because the boy usually hangs in the back of the cage. He's not up. He's very seldom in with the female because, you know, females don't have the best dispositions, and, you know, he knows better unless it's breeding season and she's a little bit more receptive to come around and hang out with her. She's a vicious, no-nonsense feeder. He's, you know, of course, a male and a bit more sporadic in his desire to feed. You know, I don't really push him to eat. He usually will let me know when he's hungry and looking for a feed. And, you know, remember, a lot of people overfeed their snakes. And I have in the past, no, you know, I'm not putting anybody out there because I've done this in the past, but recently, over the past several years, I've been working on cutting everybody back. They're not happy about it, especially the thud there in the corner of the cage looking at me. Mr. Boomslang's over there looking at me. You know, they're definitely wondering where the food is. So Lori has obtained a replacement water dish. I will put a water dish here, and before I put somebody in this cage, I will go ahead and put a hut in there for them to hide in, as well as you know, maybe a tree branch or something, so they can get up closer to the light. Now that they have some heat, this is all good. So the next thing I'm going to do is use some Cavicide to clean the glass, because I don't know how, but it gets pretty dirty. You know, these are not like the other snakes I keep where they're crapping everywhere and rubbing their faces on it, but still, these get grubby and grimy. I don't pay, I'm not spending hours in here being obsessive compulsive about whether or not the glass is clean or not. Other people might, but hey, you can do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do. And that's the way it should be. So that's reasonably clean. This one has already been done. I'll just go over it again just to be sure. I will put somebody in this cage a little later once I put some additional furniture in. So now I'll put the cage back up on top, which is sort of stuff that you don't necessarily need to see. I might have to roll that rack of cages out. They're all on platforms. This is why, because in the event of snake hockey, sometimes they go and get out of my grasp under the cage, and since I'm not inclined to grab a tail without being able to monitor where the head is, I'm not liable to reach down and try to stop them. So I need to move the cage to apprehend the escapee. And also that's where all the electrical stuff is. So that's the next step, is putting the cage up top and then plugging in the electrical for the heat rocks, and then I'll repatriate the snakes that are already in there and finish up the other side for the other squammy that's going in there. So now I need to clear the deck so I can do all this. I know I see you again, you hungry beastie. I'm starving you, I know. Guy always is looking for a feed. So what I did is I outfitted this cage the rest of the way, put in his actual hut from his tub across the way so that at least smells familiar. We have a little heat gun here. I let these heat rocks sort of warm up because being Zoom Ed, some of them don't work out of the box, so we have to make sure that they're working before we put the snakes in, and both seem to be working. We verify this with our little heat gun. Now the female is quite riled up, so we'll try to get her out of there without the male or myself becoming a casualty. She is a cranky girl. So we're going to move in. Okay, we're going to play snake hockey, aren't we, girl, huh? Oh my, we're really trying hard to kill me. Well, actually, see, this is where people think that snakes are chasing them. No, she sees this as a hiding spot and is trying to get there. It's not chasing me. Although I'm going to try to tail her, which is very dangerous to do with an arboreal snake. Come on. Come on. Yes, the squammy chased me. Alright. You're really being tough today. Come on. We're not trying to stress you out. Just hook. Alright, there we go. Okay. So, we try to avoid hooking and tailing whenever possible, but sometimes the snake doesn't cooperate. There you go. Go in your hut. There you go. You're home. Oh, there you go. All right. Meanwhile, the male is like, hey, what's going on here? Hi, dude. you know, I don't know what happened to him. That scale just sort of went dark. I don't know why, but he was a wild-caught snake. Therefore, anything is possible. Here you go, bud. You're home. I advise you not to go in that hut. That would be a very bad place to go. Alright, alright. We're done. We're not going to harass you. We get a bit of water to put in there, and we'll just shut the door and let them chill overnight. Well, not really chill because now they have a better heat source, but we'll just let them calm down, and I'll try to feed the male tomorrow. Okay, so this is the more or less patternless one. He was born February of 2016. Those are not his parents over there. So I want to get him out of the tub and get him into a regular cage. So I've already taken his hut, and now hopefully we won't play snake hockey. He'll be a little bit more amenable to...
Or not.
Or not. Okay, so... No, you don't want to go in there, huh? You were comfortable any other place. Well... we're going to have to play this game. There you go. See, that's the problem with hooks, is they're hooked. And sometimes once you get the snake on them, if you're lucky enough, it's tough to undo them with all sorts of obstacles in the way. So we'll let him get settled down. Maybe he'll like it, maybe he won't. Nothing I can do about that.
Both of them now glaring out the doors.
Yep. And
Happy snakes.
yeah, happy snakes. So what we'll do now is we'll transfer his labels to the cage. So 018 was his mother. So we can keep track. Yes, I know you're very, very happy with me right now. So, there they go. They're all happy campers now.